Rotary Colombo Port City.
Rotary Club Colombo Port City and the Rotary Club of Colombo Centennial, and of course, all the Rotaractors in District 3220. A pleasure to be here with you today. And I'd like to thank past President Pushby for reaching out and asking me to be a part of this. I had the good fortune of seeing her in the Bahamas for a little while. Much too quickly, she left and went to El Salvador. But you should be very proud of her for the work she's doing and representing Sri Lanka in different countries of the world, doing a fantastic job. And of course, great to see past District Governor Dushan, past President Grishantha. Sri Lanka is one of our favorite countries in the world. And maybe it's because we have so many friends. Maybe it's because another island like ours. And a very special couple of people there, past District Governor Gowrie, who I've worked with closely on our committee. And of course, past President of Rotary International, Ravi, is a good friend and mentor. I've certainly learned a lot from him, and you're very fortunate to have him in your country to take on the kind of things that he does to make Sri Lanka better. First, let me congratulate the Rotary Club of Colombo Port City. Wow. You only started and chartered May 21st, and yet you're already up to 85 members. That has to be unprecedented. And that's because you're focused and you're doing what you should be doing as a Rotary club. And I have to tell you, I'm not sure why you need me here, because what your club is doing represents the dream that I had when I started talking about Rotaract 3 years ago. You brought Rotaractors into your club in a significant number, so they're happy to be joining Rotary and bringing their enthusiasm, their dynamism, their different way of thinking, and of course their impatience, as our young people do have, all into Rotary. And we need that, and I thank you for doing that. You know, we've been working for the last 2 years since the council on legislation. We elevated Rotaract so that Rotaract clubs were members of Rotary International, just like a Rotary club. And we've made so many changes to policies and procedures since that time to really help to continue elevating Rotaract. And some would say, well, why are we doing that? It's been a program for years. It was successful. But what we didn't do was engage Rotaractors to be willing to join Rotary clubs after their time in Rotaract was finished. That's why this is so important. And that's why we must recognize that our youth being in leadership positions in Rotary is our future. Some argue with me that Rotaract is our present, not our future. But it's all about Rotaractors being our future leaders is why they're so important to us. Rotaractors have an understanding of today's world, sometimes better than many of us who've been around for a long time. And we need that. We need to capture that into our Rotary clubs. So we've come a long way to make Rotaract clubs equal, and we still need some changes. The last couple of changes are really major and extremely expensive, because we need now to change Rotary.org. We need to change My Rotary so that every Rotaractor has equal access to our website and to our database that any Rotary member would have. That's crucial. We've been going through some major changes to our systems in Rotary, so we haven't been able to do it yet, but I assure you, it's on the top of the list that we need to change. Again, it's all about bringing Rotaract to the level of equality to Rotary clubs. And yet, keep in mind, we don't want to change Rotaract. Some say, well, just make all Rotaract clubs Rotary clubs. No, Rotaract serves a fantastic purpose in getting young professionals into our organization, understanding service, understanding what we do, and hopefully getting an enthusiasm for the way we do things, even though some of the things we do, they don't like, okay? That's a reality. Some of our traditions, the way it takes us some time to make decisions, And as I say, our young professionals want to see change quicker than we do. And I want to mention two reasons why it's so important that Rotaractors join Rotary clubs like yours. Excuse me. Number one, last year, only 6% of district governors were under the age of 60. Now think about that. Now I'm way over the age of 60, so I have a great respect for those of us in this category. We have experience, we have maturity, we bring a lot to our organization. But we need a better balance. We need more thinking, more ideas coming from the younger members of our organization. And this is one reason why we need Rotaract to really be involved, so they can help us to move into today's world better than we've done in the past. But 6% under 60, we need to make changes so that we can more easily move in a better direction. The other point that we have to remember is we are really keenly interested in diversity in our organization. It's been in our bylaws and constitution for many, many years that we should represent our community. That's what diversity is, representing every facet of our communities. But really around the world, we could do a lot better. And therefore, in the last couple of years, the Rotary Board has given more emphasis to diversity. Now, we started 30 years ago bringing women in so that we could get more diverse with our female membership. But around the world, we're still only 24% female. And so we still have a long way to go. And there's a lot of great females out there. And I see a lot of females on this call, which is great. So I'm hoping your percentage is higher than the world average. You've got some strong female leadership in your district and in your club. So I know you're going to do well with that. But we need to continue thinking about that. But relate that to Rotaract, our young professionals. They are 51% female globally. They've already got there. And guess what? Our young professionals didn't do it because they went out to accomplish that. It's just a natural phenomenon. They recognize each other as equals already. We need that to come into our Rotary clubs so that we can do the same thing, so that we don't have to push it, we don't have to emphasize it. It becomes a natural part of who we are. Rotaractors already have that natural part to bring them in. So we've been talking females for 30 years, we're 24%. Now we're talking age as part of our diversity. We've only started that 2 years ago. I'm hoping that doesn't take 30 years as well. But I think it's up to our Rotary clubs to make the changes we need to make. And I ask every Rotary club, just step back. And I mean, Colombo Port City has already done this, but other clubs that their average age is high. We have countries where the average age of Rotary clubs is 70 years old. Where are our young professionals in those countries? What's going to happen to Rotary in the long term? We have to think about those things. But each Rotary club needs to ask themselves, are we welcoming our young members? Are we welcoming any young individuals in our community? Are we giving them opportunities to get into leadership positions? Because it's not just about bringing them in and being part of the club. It's about giving them an opportunity to develop their leadership skills. I can't guarantee it, but I would say that one of the Rotaractors on this call today is a future president of Rotary International. Think about that for a minute. We're responsible for helping our young professionals to get the experience they need so they can do that job. And we need, nothing against any of our presidents, I love them all, but we need younger presidents. We need a younger drive in leadership around the world. And that's a part of what we need to do. So we need young people to really embrace being part of Rotary clubs for the long term, so that they can bring their thoughts, their ideas, their creativity, even their impatience. Because we need those kind of changes. We need change in our organization. And I believe this is a tipping point right now for Rotary. I believe this is when we need to transition into different thinking and accept change. And we all say, oh yeah, we want change, but we all don't say, I want change for myself. We just want to see change. And we need to accept ourselves. How do we change? How do we change our clubs for the better? Not change for the sake of change, but change that will enable us to do more service, to make our communities better, to do more internationally, to make our world better. That's why we're here. We have to lose sight sometimes of what the club itself, and we get hung up too much in the club itself and the personalities. We have to remember that we're here to make our community a better place. We're here to make our world a better place. And we do it. We are the best humanitarian organization in the world. And yeah, I know I'm biased, but a lot of people would agree with me on that statement. We are, and we only that because of people like yourselves. We're that because of Rotarians and Rotaractors who reach out on a regular basis to help other people. That's why we do what we do. Now, we have a committee in Rotary International, Shaping Rotary's Future. Past District Governor Gary Rassin was a member of that committee for the last 2 or 3 years and gave us thoughts and ideas from Sri Lanka. So we enabled, that was part of our thinking. And I think a lot of what Shaping Rotary's Future is recommending includes the ability to create a structure that will enhance the experience of our young professionals. So what do they recommend? Well, they're recommending that we look more at regionalization. So let's not just deal with district by district, but let's look at a whole region and put a board together for that region so that we can actually accomplish bigger projects and get more people working together than we do in single districts. As an example, Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific Islands are going to pilot this program. That's one big region. They're going to have one board of 12 members to oversee Rotary in the entire region. Now, when they go to the government of Australia, they represent every Rotary club, every Rotary district, every Rotarian and Rotaractor in those countries. That gives them greater power to be able to talk to the government with all of that behind them to support them. That's an opportunity for us. Instead of one of 19 districts in an area going to the government or going to donors and asking for help or working together. So regionalization is a big part of what we want to change. And part of that regionalization is changing up the jobs and rewriting our job descriptions. We want to create jobs that are more doable for our young professionals. Now think about it. Some district governors around the world have very large districts, either geographically or just with a number of clubs. One of the changes we made is that a district governor has responsibility for Rotary clubs and Rotaract clubs. My district, as an example, that means we have 155 clubs that the district governor should visit and motivate. That's hard to do in 365 days. And so how do we do that? Well, and how many young people can take on a job that is that large and that encompassing? Well, not a lot, and especially somebody who's starting out with a young family, a new job, a career path they want to work, but they still want to do service. So we want to rewrite job descriptions. We want to bring leaders down to only 10 to 20 clubs. And with none of the administration and the administrative responsibilities that a governor has, but instead simply to provide guidance, motivation, and of course, inspiration to all of our clubs, both Rotary and Rotaract. Okay, so that gives fewer clubs. Therefore, the idea is that younger individuals would have more of an ability to take on that job and work and motivate our clubs. Now, some clubs don't even realize they need motivation. So we need the right people in that job who can help the club to assess themselves and determine what they need to do to be a stronger club, to do more for their community and for their members. And remember, one of our biggest problems is the fact that our members don't stay with us. We're really good at bringing in members to Rotary. In the last 10 years, we brought in almost 1.4 million members around the world. And yet we haven't changed the total membership. What happens is they come in and they leave within 2-3 years. Why? Because we're not engaging them. We're not meeting their expectations. They hear about Rotary and all the things we do. They come into certain clubs and they don't see that. And they're not welcome. They're brought in because we want more members, and then nobody really mentors them and helps them appreciate what they need to do to be an integral part of the club. So we need to fix that. And young members are able to help us to fix that. So we need that, and we need them in those doable jobs, as I say, with less responsibility, but we want longer terms. So we would like that individual who's responsible for 10, 20 clubs to do that for 2 years. That gives them a longer opportunity to really make an impact on the clubs and help the clubs to do what they want. We also want Rotaractors to be eligible for jobs that Rotarians are eligible for. Okay, that's part of equality, is being able to be a leader in the organization. And sure, some are so busy and again, their new career path, their family, it's difficult. But there are others, such as your DRR, who has the ability and the time and the leadership capabilities. You know, one thing we brought in to Rotary a couple of years ago was an agreement with Toastmasters. And guess what? That originated right there in Sri Lanka, between the president of Toastmasters in Sri Lanka and the president of Rotary in Sri Lanka, and has developed now into this great partnership where they've written their leadership roles in Rotary language. And we originally started that specifically for Rotaract clubs, but we're finding many Rotary clubs are taking that on because we as Rotarians also need to lead and develop our leadership skills. So that's a part of what we want to accomplish. So young professionals need to be able to do these jobs in leadership. They need to be eligible for positions in leadership, whether it's Rotaract or Rotary. We also want the Rotaractors and Rotarians, their clubs, to be able to vote for their leaders. Now, around the world, most districts use a nomination process, and clubs don't get involved in voting for their leaders. They barely know who their leaders are in some parts of the world because the nominating committee does it, and they may or may not see their district governor. We need that to change. We need clubs to be involved in who the leaders are. That gives them a greater appreciation and a greater buy-in for working with their leaders, and therefore developing clubs themselves. So Rotaract clubs and Rotary clubs should have the opportunity to vote for their leaders. And finally, it's really important that our young members have a voice in what we do. And we've made a lot of changes in the last 2 years of putting Rotaractors on Rotary International committees. We have them sitting at the table of the Rotary International Board. We have them sitting at the table of the trustees. We have districts who have put Rotaractors on the district board. We have, I know one district that's already made a Rotaractor an assistant governor in the district. And why not? Good person, good leadership skills. They should have that opportunity to develop themselves. By having their voice at the table, we're able to have a greater understanding of today's world and how young people think. Because if we want a great future in our organization, it's going to be up to the youth to help us to do that. It's up to our young professionals to really help to develop this organization by sharing with us their thinking, their ideas, their creativity, so that we can develop and appreciate where we are in this world we live in today. So we're on a journey. I mentioned this back at the Council on Legislation 2 years ago when we started to Elevate Rotaract. And look how far we've come in 2 years. I can't think of many changes we've made in our organization that have happened this fast. And when I say that to some Rotaract clubs, they say, that's fast? Yes, in Rotary, this is fast. We've accomplished a whole lot in 2 years, and we should be proud of that. But it shows that the Rotary world has seen that this is a good thing to do. The Rotary world wants to make this change, to incorporate Rotaract, to incorporate our young professionals. And again, to go back to Colombo Port City, you have begun on the last part of that journey where Rotaractors want to join a Rotary club so they can be part of Rotary to make our community better and to make our world a better place. If every club around the world starts to do that, imagine the potential that our organization has. You know, President Shaker says we should go to 1.3 million Rotarians this year. This, as of July 1st, we're 1,164,000. And with the pandemic, that still could go down. So we've got a whole lot of work to do. And I believe the solution in that is for Rotaractors to join our Rotary clubs and help us to get to where we need to be. I believe we should be at least 2 million members. And we can only do that if every club around the world stands up and says, yes, we want to be a part of this. We want to make our change. Why? Because there are people in the world who need our help. And they need our help today more than they've ever needed it. There are still 16 countries in the world that have not had their first vaccine. But what's going to happen to those countries? We need to step in and help the governments of the world, help communities around the world to make sure that all of our people are getting the help that they need to live a better life. That's why we do what we do. So let's not get hung up on the little things in our clubs. Let's keep focused on the big thing. And an example of that is, of course, we've only had 2 cases of polio this year. 2 cases of polio, and that was in January. That's the longest ever. That's fantastic. And that's because of Rotarians and Rotaractors like you, because you participated in the program to make sure that we could reach every person in the world, no matter where they were. Conflict areas, on mountains, in rural jungles, we got the polio vaccine everywhere. Well, we can do that with many other things if we keep working together to recognize that we're only here for one purpose, to make our world a better place. So I thank you. I thank you for inviting me today. It's, as I said to start, it's always a pleasure to talk with my friends in Sri Lanka. You guys are wonderful. You do wonderful work. You are role models for many countries of the world. So I thank you for what you do. I thank you for having me, and I wish you all the very best. Thank you.
Rotary Colombo Port City.